6:30 p.m. local time here in the economic capital of Cameroon. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for joining us in this first edition of the week of Viewpoint on DBS Television. In tonight's edition, we are going to be touching the educational system of Cameroon, both the English and the French subsystem of education, and we will be trying to find out how equal it is in giving the same opportunities to all Cameroonians. To discuss about this, we are honored to have an educationist with us in the studio, Jerome. It's not the first time, but for my return, it's the first time I'm hosting him. Good evening to you, Mr. Kum, and thank you very much for coming.
Good evening, Vanessa. Good evening, televiewers. It's always a pleasure to answer present on your program in order to discuss vital issues, especially education, which is the backbone of every society. Thank you once more.
It's my pleasure. Mr. Manchang Branko Eno, he is a teacher, he is an upcoming artist, and an actor in the making. Good evening and thank you for coming.
Good evening, Vanessa, and I say good evening to all televiewers out there. And it's really a pleasure to really talk about education, especially in our community like that of Cameroon.
Let us have the first part of the show. In the first question, two systems of education in Cameroon offering the same opportunities to Cameroonians. That is the question we want to find out. Mr. Kum, does that offer the same opportunity, yes or no?
No.
No. Sorry? No.
Yes.
It does?
It does.
It does, yes. And can harmonizing... I'm sorry for that, televiewers. Can harmonizing the system bring any impact on the educational landscape in the country? And I'll begin with you.
Well, I think harmonizing will do a great lot as far as creating impact in the society is concerned.
So, yes. Chiro.
Yeah. Yes, to a greater extent.
Greater extent. Let us have the second part. You are all welcome back, and you could equally tune in on Facebook. That is it. It has appeared on your screens. Tune in and watch the debate as well as participate through messages. In the first part, two systems of education in Cameroon offering the same opportunity to Cameroonians. That is what we are trying to find out. Come, Jerome, I begin with you. You think that they do not offer the same opportunity. That is the French subsystem of education and the English subsystem of education. So what brings in that disparity?
Yes, thank you very much, Vanessa. On the two systems of education we have in Cameroon, that is the English subsystem and the French subsystem. Critically looking at it from the curriculum and its origin, the cultures, they don't offer the same or similar opportunities. The English subsystem of education, which is Anglo-Saxon, we inherited from the British after the mandate in 1961. Now, this subsystem of education tries to do what? Empowers its people through the system of indirect rule. If you go a long way to understand the system of indirect rule, Vanessa, you will understand that it was like bringing out the competencies in Africans and in the people. So the English system tries to do what? Try to impact the people and give them what we call autonomy in order to manage their affair, in order to be creative, to be thinking and reproductive. Not unlike the French system of education in Cameroon, where they are trying to do what? Assimilate. Annihilating the cultures of others. Now, Cameroon is a bicultural society with a lot of, many tribal and ethnic groups, which will have contributed to what? A plus, giving equal opportunities to all Cameroonians. But this is not the case. If I want to go down to the curriculum of Cameroon in the two subsystem, it is not the same in the past years. if not of harmonization that started, and it is not complete right up to today due to some lapses. The same pupils or students that are taught and trained in the English system of education, they do not have the same opportunities. Why? The French system in Cameroon is more of what we call theory and philosophy, and they believe in what? Recitation, memorization, and office work. Meanwhile, the English system, it is more like the competence-based approach where you are trained in order to be creative, thinking, and productive. That is why right up to now, we still have what we call the practicals in the first school living certificate for Anglophones, Anglophone primary schools. But it is not the case with Francophone primary school. They blotted it out. Why? Because they are still orientating people that we need to assimilate you. You need to behave the way the French educational system is behaving. Meanwhile, the English person, like system of education, sought to do what? Empowers you, give you the autonomy, give you what we call the motivation to be creative, entrepreneurial abilities to be discovered, and then you harness it and develop your own society. Why do we not have the same the same opportunities is reason for the outbreak of the Anglophone crisis, where lawyers and teachers, they came to the streets because Anglo-Saxon lawyers did not have the same opportunities, just like teachers. That is what brought them to the street because of what? Disparities. And where are the disparities coming from? It did not start from the applicators of the curriculum, but from the planners and designers. Those who plan the curriculum, the ministers, great educational stakeholders, inspectors, delegates, and visionaries in the educational domain, when they are planning it, they are always chorus right up there of what to be included into the curriculum and what to be left out based on what we want the future Cameroonian to be. So, French subsystem, they are, as I earlier said, they are creating people who are like forming them for what we call white collar jobs. White collar jobs to work in offices and only recite what they have been told to do. Meanwhile, here with us, the Anglo-Saxon system, it has to do with what? If I want to put like it deals mostly with child-centered approach of teaching, which today is known as what we call competency-based approach. Authority is given to the child. The teacher is only acting as what? A guide, as a mediator. But most of the work is done by the child because we want to develop competencies and ability, because inborn in every human being is a skill, a talent that has to be harnessed and developed, so much so that you can be of help to your own environment. This is where this disparity come in, Madam Vanessa.
All right. You will hold on with your point where we get the point of view of Eno, who thinks that there is an equal opportunity to Cameroonians as far as the two systems of educations are concerned. Mr. Kum talked of the English subsystem of education being autonomous, being reproductive, and letting the children think out of the box. Meanwhile, the French system of education it trains them towards a normal system where you from better still from the class to the office, not actually encouraging them to develop their own personal capacity. So you rather think that it gives us Cameroonians the same opportunity?
Well, in respect of my own point of view, I would say it gives Cameroonians equal opportunities, because I am opportune to have school throughout a bilingual school. So, and I want to really center this at the level of the educational sector that we are facing in Cameroon. In respect of the English subsystem of education, the Anglo-Saxon education, we discovered that the Anglo-Saxon education, quite all right, is autonomous. And when we try to look into it deeply, he talked about the competency-based approach. And I will ask him, when was that competency-based approach applied? That is the question. That is the first question that we need to go back into it. When was it applied? Upon when was it applicable in the Cameroon subsystem of education at the level of the Anglophones? And looking at that competency-based approach, really it presents the students or the people to think out of the box. But it is still, to me, a tool of putting some teachers to become, that is, actually lazy. Because we find teachers today that, due to the fact that they said, no, the system of education says that you must try to bring out the capacity of the child, you must try to bring out that competency of the child. We find teachers sitting, and even when a child is going off the rail, the teacher is not there to call back that child to order. Now, why am I saying that? It gives, to me, equal opportunities to all Cameroonians in respect to the French subsystem of education.
Mm-hmm.
That is where the crux of the matter is laying upon. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because the outcome of everything is hard work, irrespective of the educational background you are coming from. If you are not hard work, you won't have it out there. You won't say you should just sit because you hail from an academic background that you were taught to bring out your competency, and you do not go out to show that. It's a different thing to give someone or to teach someone to bring out the competence. It's a different thing for that person to apply them. Because in the French educational system, despite the lapses, we discover that in respect of their philosophy, their theory, but yet they still prepare the students to get out there and be reproductive and to give out what is needed. That is what is the most important thing. It is not you bringing up a child. You say, no, that you ought to do things like this, you ought to do things like this, you ought to show your creativity, you ought to think out of the box as far as theoretical aspects are concerned. But at the end of the day, we discover that these students or these people have nothing in there. They have nothing, because some of them will even testify to you that despite they say the CBA, the question is, what is the CBA? And how are the teachers really handling that CBA? Unlike with the French system, that you discover that it is a STEM process. It is a STEM process, because once, for instance, their questions are set, they must ensure that at the end of these questions, the skill acquired by this learner should be seen. The skill acquired.
A STEM process that has held a lot of students back.
That is it. It has really.
We say it that way because a lot of students, even talking with them, they'll tell that they don't see why they're writing this probatoire exam, because it has held a lot of students from advancing, from moving forward.
Ms. Vanessa, the issue with Cameroonian learners is that we are in a society in which students must complain. Students must complain. It is not we all here are educators, so we have the experience. We teach students, we teach mature students both in the first cycle and the second cycle. But these students have that ability of, or that mindset of always complaining. It's not an issue of the probatoire, or like the case which happened with the baccalaureate, that we find the students complaining that in respect of the curriculum, the exams they face, nothing had to coincide with what they were being taught in class. Mm-hmm. But I guess a prepared learner will know what he or she is getting into and will be ready to link questions in respect of how the curriculum looks like or what he or she has been taught in class. It is not all about you saying, no, this is holding me back. It's not all about holding someone back. It's the same case. Even if we get to the Anglo-Saxon education, you will teach these students. I am a literature teacher, and there are times even after the GCE, I find students standing outside and saying that, he would have taught this thing. Why is it that it is this thing that came? It is general. That's why I say it gives equal opportunities. Mm-hmm. It is general. The problems are everywhere, and we must, until we come to a term to accept that, the better for us. Because that conception of the Francophone system trying to marginalize the Anglophone system of education, I wouldn't really guarantee that in 100%.
No, we are not saying that. We are just trying to make sure whether if I study in the English subsystem of education and you do in the first subsystem of education, do we have the same opportunity when we go out in the job market?
Of course.
Now, listen,
right, your reaction.
Vanessa, my brother, Mr. Eno, you talk of this aspect. I would like to say that the aim of education is to transform and change the society in which we are in.
Excellent.
And education has not taken place if there is no change in behavior. And this change in behavior is influenced by what? The skills and competencies you inculcate into your learners. Because learning is influenced by two basic factors. We have what we call hereditary inborn, the family background, and the environment and the society in which you find yourself. Now, if you compare two sets of students, I'm not comparing institution. Somebody who graduates from the University of Boya, Anglo-Saxon, right? Same series. And somebody who graduates maybe from the University of Douala. Let me not go to Chang. There are two different worlds in the job market. Go to the United States of America. Go to Dubai, where practical skills and abilities are required. You will see that those who practice the Anglo-Saxon system of education, they are selling more than our fellow brothers of the other system of education. That is why many Anglo-Saxon schools are being flooded by children from the French background because of what? The strength behind this system. I'm not saying that. Harmonization has been taking place. It started many years and it has not been completed. It has been taking place. Why? Because some of these lapses, this lack of equal opportunities in the same countries, they were identified, and that's why they have been trying to do what? Do harmonization. And it is not complete. We used to have 7 years because we believe that before you complete the primary cycle, there should be some certain things that you can do practically. Handwork, skills, practical work, because you are not learning that thing. Gone are those days that we taught our children to come out and speak grammar and then they are unable to produce anything. Bro, it's like that. Yes. So it doesn't give us equal opportunities because in this other aspect, where is the behavior orientated? The behavior is orientated to speak fluently, to make a lot of noise. But in this other aspect, behavior is orientated to do what? Transform. I can sweep. I can produce broom. I can do this to help my economy, to help my family, and to help my environment.
All right. Gentlemen, I don't know, with the help of our producer, if we could extend the show to tomorrow, but I know that it's a critical topic for us to treat. There is a lot to say, but we will leave it at this angle and take the second question. Can harmonizing the system bring any impact on the educational landscape in the country? All right. How can the system be fully harmonized, first of all, and before affecting the educational landscape in Cameroon?
Well, in respect of harmonizing the system fully, I think the system can be fully harmonized if the educators out there tend to see that education deals, as the other panel say, with the environment. And we are of different cultural backgrounds. And when two cultural backgrounds in respect of the Anglo-Saxon cultural background and the Franco-Saxon subsystem cultural background are to come together, we must understand that the curriculum must go back into some checks. Yes, there must be some previews in respect of the curriculums. And I think at that level, the system will be fully harmonized. Because if you look at, let's say, the English concept, you are going to discover that the system is like almost coming together by dancing. Just like my brother said, that harmonization has been going on, because sometimes us English teachers in the Anglo-Saxon subsystem of education will get to seminars, and documents that are being given to us are written in Anglais. And you discover that there is a problem, because what the Anglophone subsystem of education are having is not Anglais, because Anglais is of the Francophone subsystem of education. So I think that the curriculum should be revisited, and there should be an overview of the lapses, the problems, and they should try to know where to put them together and how to reconcile them at the end of the day. I think with that way, there will be some changes and it will help the system to be fully harmonized.
So how does that affect the landscape, the educational landscape of the country? Well,
it's going to really affect the educational landscape of the country positively, because harmonizing the two subsystems of education will produce double skills. It will give added advantages, and it will really promote the bilingualism culture that Cameroon has really aspired of, because the issue of bilingualism has become a problem a problem, and we discover that it is just being said by words, but it's not being applicable. And that is why you discover that if, let me take at the level of institutions, as my brother is saying, you discover that if you take an Anglo-Saxon student to school in universities like University of Douala, that fear of the language becomes a problem. But I bet you, if that student is courageous and if these two systems are together, I think that student will be the one to gain more, because having both skills and be quite eloquent in both languages will rather help to enhance the successes of the job markets out there. So I think that is...
It's more of a positive impact.
More of a positive impact.
Jerome, you think that, yes, harmonizing the two systems will affect the educational landscape, yes, to a greater extent?
Yes, it will affect the educational landscape to a greater extent, in the sense that, one, it is going to lead to what? Full or maximum utilization of the human resource, because there will be what? Training and formation. If harmonization is completely done, because it is still in the process. Now the competence-based approach is both in the Francophone and Anglophone subsystem. We now have, how do we call it, 6 years in the primary cycles of both. Those are some aspects of the harmonization. Yeah. Now, if we can come to what we call the teaching methods, if the teaching methods are harmonized throughout the national territory, we will produce children with what? A national focus to solve national problems and be competent in the international market. For example, views on what is being taught in the University of Bamenda, if it's the same thing taught in the University of Boya, you will acquire the skills and be able to influence in all the 10 regions of Cameroon, knowing that what is taught in Maroua is the same thing in Eboloa. Bringing this together will result to what? Increase in output, what I call it GDP or GNP. Yes, there will be an increase in that. That's how it's going to influence it. Next, it's going to, like, bringing these things together will do what? It will enable that resources are not wasted. What do I mean by resources are not wasted? In bilingual schools, we still have, in bilingual schools, like, maybe, I don't know whether it's the same thing in Moliko. Yes, bilingual grammar school Moliko, where we have 50-50 kind of a thing. We still have a double impact where 50 teachers English will come and teach history, geography, and 50 teachers will come and teach histoire. No.
When you talk of bilingual schools, do you mean, all right, we understand. Go ahead.
Yes, I mean where we good, not like what we have, lycée bilingue de Daido, or no, not that one, because in Moliko you are purely trained all in English and all in French. You develop both capacity, so resources, usage of resources will be maximized if the concept is well understood. Because this country is very funny. Yes, if the concept is well understood, we are going to enjoy from what? The diversity of both system. The English system, it has its strength and a few weaknesses, and the French system has its own strength and the many weaknesses. There are many weaknesses in it, but the strength will be brought in, and the strength of the English, and then it will make everything to be good. And then I said to an extent, why? Because following the context of my country, we are not dealing with the word collaboration. We are dealing with what? Competition. Well, that is what led Cameroon to where we are today. And if we compete, it's only going to destroy us. Yes, people will, I mean planners, people who call themselves educators, they will be competing that the English system of education, the French system of education, and what are they trying to do? They are trying to say this one is better. And we know what the French system is all about. Assimilation. Suppress the good system no matter the good value that it has, for it not to be said clearly. So it will help, as well as if it is not well understood, they will still project it. Our courts were using the French law system, which is all education, and our schools were gradually being assimilated. The result thereafter of what? The Anglophone crisis that started in 2016. So we are pleading to the authorities, as harmonization is still going on. It has not completed.
It has not completed.
Yes, that they should look into the strength of both systems and collaboration is far better than
competition. Thank you very much, Cameroon and educationists. So, Mr. Eno, what should be the take-home message from this, if you are to talk particularly to youths?
Well, the take-home message that I will really give out there to the youths is that, irrespective of your background, to me, it depends on how determined you are. Irrespective of your background, because most of the times we live in assumption. And like when we say which educational background is important or this, there is suppression here. No. Once you are determined, once you know what you want, once you know what you want to get, focus is the most important thing.
Focus is the most important thing. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming. Thank you for opening the week with me, and to you all televiewers, special viewers of Viewpoint in every nooks and crannies of Cameroon. Thank you very much for your kind and keen attention. Take the rendezvous for tomorrow.